Welcome to Murder and Makeouts, where we review books, count cocks, and swoon over morally grey men. My name is Diana, and this is Rhiannon, but she likes to be called Rhi. I'm the only person who calls her Rhiannon. And this is our introductory episode where we tell you what our podcast is about, what we're going to do, and why you should subscribe and follow us.
Yeah, and a little bit about who we are as well, because if you're going to follow us, you want to like who we are as people, I think.
We're great people.
We are great people.
Well, I am.
Okay, so that's a little bit of an insight into our little relationship dynamic as well. Essentially, this is a bit of a virtual book club, so we'll be picking a book at the start of each month and then giving you our reviews at the end of each month. So the intention is that you read along with us as we go, and try and engage a bit. We want views as we go. We want people jumping in, putting in their little tidbits as they read, just a sort of that book club vibe, bit chaotic, options to say, I just got up to this bit, who's up to there as well.
Yeah. Especially when you've just read something that's really frustrating and you want to talk to somebody about it. It'd be really great if we had, we're going to have some chats going on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube where you can say, who's up to this chapter? Have you just read this? Oh my God, it's frustrating. Oh my God, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Or finally.
We are going to be your companions to read along with each month.
Mm-hmm. And we're focusing on crime, thriller, romance. Those are the books that we both enjoy. If we can combine them all together, that's great. And that includes fantasy, like romantasy. I don't mind a bit of romantasy, although I haven't really delved into that. That's more of a you thing.
You might notice from the books behind me, I'm a big romantasy reader, so I'm hoping to get Diana a bit more involved. I'm hoping as we can just get her there. We can start with a few basic romances and then try and explain that there are better versions of romance out there if there are dragons involved.
Yes. And I think there's a couple of new releases this year that are quite like the next installments in series, and so I think it would be cool to read some of those series, or for me to read them, and maybe you reread them.
Yeah, sure. I think I will need to reread. So the one we're definitely talking about is the new book in the Makeouts series. So getting Diana to read it for the first time will be huge. The joy of that, for those who have read it before, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But we'll get her on board for that train before the new one comes out and do some sort of an episode on the new book, which will be fantastic.
Mm-hmm. So that's what we're focusing on, and the way it's going to run is that on the first of the month we'll announce the book, and then we will have Instagram, social media running so we can talk about the book as we're reading them, and then we will do a podcast which will drop on the last Saturday of the month, so you've got the weekend to listen to it. And the podcast will have, the beginning won't have spoilers, but the second half will have spoilers. So if you want to listen to the podcast to get an idea of whether you should read the book, you'll be able to get that from the first half, and then we'll have a big indication that now the spoilers are coming, and then I think the vent session, or
you'll get unfiltered opinion.
Unfiltered opinion, yes.
It'll start very formal, very like general information, and then we'll probably go off the rails, a bit chaotic, depending on how we feel about it.
I think it's safe to say that we're generally not filtered people.
No. No.
So stay in touch on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok throughout the month, and we'll see what's going. And we'd love to hear your guesses as well. So we'll talk about it a little bit more in the moment when we talk about what our podcast is going to cover. But we'd love to hear your guesses about, who the killer is and other things like that. So keep in touch as we're reading.
Yeah. So in terms of what the actual podcast will cover itself, there will be a rating out of 5, very standard sort of rating system. Mm-hmm. There will also be a spice rating, which is from 1 to 5 chilies. So you're looking at something between like fade to black, absolutely nothing happening, not even a hand touch, to very spicy, dear God, there's no plot line going on, it's just sex back to back.
Yeah. Descriptions of like veins.
Yeah.
Like where there's veins. Colour, full description.
So you'll get 1 to 5 spice rating. So if that gives you an indication of what that spice would mean. There'll also be a segment we're going to do at the start when we're announcing it based on us guessing what chapter they're first going to have sex in the new book, and a guess of the killer, if it's a thriller or murder mystery.
Yes. Which is sometimes tricky, but I think it would be kind of fun to be like, just from the outset being like, do you think the killer is going to be like the protagonist, or is the killer somebody else in their world, or is it always the husband? Or
boyfriend.
Or boyfriend, yeah.
Or girlfriend.
Or girlfriend, okay. Well, no, because then you've got issues, because it's usually the male. It's more likely to be a man.
That's what it usually is, yeah.
I quite enjoy books where the female is the killer, because it's less predictable. Anyway.
Less predictable, and it's usually better cover-up. I'd say. We'll
Yes.
be better at covering up.
Yes, true. We're much more intelligent.
We will also have a cock count segment, which is not counting literal cocks within the book, because I think that could just get boring if it's one central cock.
Yeah.
You know?
Not the number of people, not the number of different cocks.
Yeah, it's more about how many times sexual activity occurs.
Yes.
Sexual activity of any kind.
Yes, any kind of sexual activity. So just, getting an idea of how spicy the book is in the sense of, like, how frequently we're getting sex happening. Or are we just having to wait for the end? And then how spicy that sex is. Because this is important information.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
And we'll also have a segment on a bit of a breakdown of the tropes. So what sort of themes are we seeing the most throughout this book? Some of that may be just our frustrations with particular tropes, I think. And some may be actually useful information for you if you're trying to avoid certain types of tropes in books.
Yes. Like with slow burns for me, it's like I don't mind a slow burn, but there comes a point where it's just got to happen, right? Like a slow burn spread out over 5 books in like a series, that just drives me nuts.
I love a good slow burn. We'll let that go. Whereas for me, it'd be like miscommunication trope is just going to throw me off the wall. If it's like, dear God, one phone call could have solved
this whole thing.
Entire thing.
We could have just jumped 10 chapters.
Yeah, and if your plot line is riding on just them not talking to each other, you've lost me. That's my least favourite.
Yeah. So chat for the tropes.
And we'll also be doing recommendations. So we'll talk about whether we recommend this book for a book club. If you liked this book, we'll try and give some recommendations on other books you should try. If you absolutely hated it, we'll probably give you a recommendation on something you could read instead. We'll just see how it goes, depending on each book for each month.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so we'll also give you a quick intro into us now and how we met. And despite our amazing chemistry, we haven't actually known each other that long.
No, I think it'd be one of those scenarios where if you've ever met someone and you've had like a 3-minute conversation and you just think, fuck, we should start a podcast. If you have, it's that sort of dynamic.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
It really is. It is. So we worked together, and I started at this job at the beginning of January. So we've worked together for couple of months, and I think I knew by the end of my first day, because our desks were next to each other, I think I knew by the end of the first day, I'm like, I think she's one of my people. But I can be a lot. I can be very loud. Definitely a big personality. And so I had to go softly, and I was quite proud of it. I feel like I eased into our friendship instead of just being like, shit, you're my woman. Let's just go besties.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I think based on I don't know if that was slow for you, but end of our first day together, I think we'd covered off on all of our hobbies, our relationship status, our previous relationship statuses. Yep. I think we'd covered off on like things we love and hate about different people.
Yeah, it's true. That was slow for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been in there in the first hour, but I held out for a whole 8 hours.
Yeah. One of the first things I think we talked about was our love of reading and our various favourite types of genres and authors and all that sort of stuff, and we're giving each other recommendations, working really, really hard.
Yeah, we did work really hard.
On our first day. Or your first day, I did significantly longer, but so I think we just sort of meshed very early and knew we needed to do something together that was book related.
Yes. Especially when we found out that our genres are the same, and I thought it was quite exciting. There were a lot of books that I recommended to you that you hadn't read, and you were the same. You were recommending books to me, and so this is how this podcast kind of came out of it. So that's how we met.
Yes.
There's also, and I think this would be quite interesting for the podcast, quite an age difference between us.
You would not believe it.
Yeah, you would not believe the age difference between us, but I like it in the sense that, firstly, I like to think that people can't tell that there's a significant age difference.
I think if you're watching this on YouTube or any of the platforms where you can visually see us, you know that it doesn't look like there's an age difference between us.
I don't think you
if
can
you're
tell.
Listening, perhaps you're guessing which one is older based on our voices, perhaps. But yes, there is definitely an age gap.
Yeah, there's quite a significant age gap. That age gap spans 2 generations. So we've got a millennial and a Gen Z. And I think that will be quite interesting when it comes to our reviews and our opinions on books, because we've talked about a couple of books before, and we've had completely different perspectives on them. And I think a lot of that has come from the fact we're 2 different generations. We're very significant age gap between us. We'd be an age gap romance.
Oh, we would.
We've been age gap romance.
Not quite a fantasy one, but
No, not hundreds of years. I've got children as well, which adds
a husband.
Oh yeah, I've got one and two. I got a husband and children.
I have neither.
And so I think again that adds a different dynamic and a different perspective. And I think that'll come up through our reviews, which should be quite interesting.
I think out of the two of us, if I was going to summarize who prefers more spice in their books, definitely Diana. I don't know if you picked that up from the earlier description about veins around different cock sizes, but Diana is very much more into the spice. I love a good slow burn. I love romance as a side plot to a thriller, as opposed to the central plot. It's taken me a little bit longer to get into pure romance novels compared to thrillers that have an element of romance to them.
I would agree with that. I definitely like my romance to be a side plot to the thriller, like to the suspense mystery that's happening. But I like my side plot to be spicy, and I generally only read pure when I'm ovulating. Yeah.
I think a lot of people could probably agree with that.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a fan fiction era. So, when I was 13, I was reading all kinds of like Harry Styles dark romance stuff. And I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten more prudish, actually. I think I've gone the other way, where I was reading way too much when I was like 13. I was getting far too into it. And now I've gone back to stages being like, I just want a simple country life where they like, hold hands through a field or something. But it's less about like hardcore sex.
I'm kind of the opposite because, coming from the dark ages, it was the opposite for me. Pre-technology, black and white TVs. There was none of that. I didn't really discover romance books and romance novels and that side of thing until I was, at university. So maybe that's why I'm catching up for lost time.
Different world.
Anyway, we should talk about the first book.
Yes.
And I have to make a confession. I did get the physical book and I left it at home. So unfortunately I don't have a physical book to show you, but the first book is The Hunting Wives by Makeouts. And I really want to read this because it has been turned into a Netflix TV series. And I think it's always really interesting when you see books that end up being turned into movies and TV series, that they've got they're quite popular and they've got quite a fan base to them. And it's got some very interesting ratings on Goodreads. It's either like 5 stars, I love it, or 1 star, this is the worst book I've ever read and here are all the reasons why. And so I've had a bit of a delve there and I've tried to avoid the spoilers, but I am very interested to read it. And I do like to read the books before I watch the TV series. And I know that means that the TV series and the movies are then a bit of a letdown. Like I did it backwards for Twilight. I saw the Twilight movie first and then went and read the book. And I preferred it that way because I got so much more out of the book.
Yeah. Adds more depth to it.
But as I've gotten older, I do prefer to read the book first and then watch the TV series. But that's kind of why I suggested we do The Hunting Wives.
Yeah, and I've got it downloaded onto my Kindle now. I haven't started reading it yet. But from the cover, one of the sort of cover recommendations on there, or reviews, I suppose, talks about it being very similar to Big Little Lies, but with a fair bit more spice to it. And as someone who absolutely adored Big Little Lies, that is an immediate sort of hook to me. Yeah. I want to read it because that book was it's one of my all-times.
Yes, me too. I thought Big Little Lies was amazing. The other book, because I've got the hard copy, obviously, and on the front of it, it said Big Little Lies and The Guest List. I can't remember who the author was. I haven't read The Guest List, but I looked it up and added it to my to-be-read list because it sounded amazing. So those 2 recommendations and all the 5-star reviews on Goodreads, I think there is potential for it to be a good book.
Yes. Very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
It sounds like a great book.
So we need to guess the killer and guess our cock count.
Yes.
I'm going to guess that there are... I feel like this is probably more of a like a thriller book than a sex book. I'm going to guess that there are like 5 sexual events in the book.
No, I think I'm going to go higher. I'm going to, just based on the fact that it said Big Little Lies but with more spice as a review, I'm thinking there's going to be like 10 to 15. I can't do a range.
Well, I'd be happy. 10 to 15 and a good sweet chili spice count.
I imagine you're going to love it.
Yeah.
That's the view I'm getting. I'm hoping that, there's a good thriller element to it, but I think Big Little Lies centered a fair bit around the sort of, murder mystery element.
Yes.
So I do think that this one's going to have a lot more sex count.
Yeah, okay.
Than thriller. So I'm thinking, 10 to 15 for the cock count.
I think I've probably underguessed, but I'm going to stick to it. I've committed to 5.
You've committed.
I've committed.
Yeah.
So now we have you guess the killer. I think that instead of guessing the actual killer, I want to kind of guess where in the book I'm going to guess who the killer is.
Yeah, okay.
Because I was just thinking about it, I think it's kind of hard to say I think the killer is blah when you haven't actually been introduced to all the characters yet. Like, that's an easy... If you want to guess in that sense, then it's easier to guess while you're reading. So that might be a fun thing that we can do online with readers. But for me, a good thriller book is a book where there are enough crumbs to have good clues, but that I don't actually figure out who it is until right before the author reveals it to me. That, for me, is a sign of a well-written book that's balanced it really well.
Yeah.
And so... if I guess it early, then I'm a little disappointed. I do think very analytically about how I guess who's done it. And by the time I'm a third in, because the way you write a book, you have to have introduced all the characters. You have to have introduced the killer, at least a third of the way into the book, right? So at that point, I start doing a stock take of all the people. And then I start deciding who's in and who's out.
Yeah.
Which some people might see as a bit like taking the fun out of it, but that's what I enjoy. So if I guess at that point, then to me that's a sign of like too obvious. So for this book, I'm going to say, because I'm a bit smug, I'm going to say that I'm going to guess at like the 2/3 mark who it is.
That's pretty confident.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm smart.
I approach guessing the killer a little bit differently. I think I've taken a very like Agatha Christie type of approach to guessing who the killer is, where I imagine they get suspected at some point, but then they're like, oh, it can't be them. They're dismissed.
Okay, yep.
So I usually base my guess on, it's never the first person, everyone knows this. It's never the first person that's under, it's always like the second or third. And then they go, oh, I can never be the second person because we've moved on to this other very obvious detail, like the murder weapon or something.
Yeah.
So I usually base it off of that. So my theory now is going to be that it's like the second person who is under suspicion. So not the first person.
Yeah.
Whoever that is.
Yeah.
It's going to be the second person.
Okay. All right. That's a good guess.
Yeah.
I like
it's going to be something that's like possible, plausible, but then we think it's not the case and we move on from it. But it's going to come back and it'll be that second person.
I see how you felt it. I quite like those books where the really obvious person at the beginning that gets dismissed ends up being the killer.
Yeah, they are the killer.
I like those books.
Circle back.
You circle all the way back.
You know what? You were right.
Yeah, you were right in the first place. Yes,
you
should have just, and then they get caught out and that's when they, at the end
I
of
like
the
an
book
unreliable narrator. I like where it turns out it's the person that is
Yes,
narrating the book.
that
They're
is
my
clever.
favourites. They're my favourite killers.
Yeah,
when you're like reading along and you think, well, it's obviously not this person.
Yeah.
They're telling us the story, and then you realise there was a time gap of a week or something, and it happened.
That is good.
In there.
Yes. They're all good. I'm so excited. Okay, I think it'll be a good book. I have high hopes.
I have high hopes.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. And also, I like the cast when I saw the Netflix.
I haven't actually looked into the Netflix.
Oh, I've just looked at the faces. Like, I recognise their faces. And so I thought the cast looked good.
Oh, the other review I saw on the front of it said, this is what Mean Girls would become.
Yeah, I saw that actually too. That was,
I'm
that'd
kind of
be
here for that.
Yeah. And the title, The Hunting Wives, like, I'm curious to see what that means. Like,
What are they hunting?
what are they hunting? Are they hunting for wives?
Is it like that dystopian future where they're just hunting the poor?
Yeah, so what does the title mean? So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think
That'll do
for our intro. It's been a long intro, but now you got to know us.
So I guess our suggestion would be download Hunting Wives, go buy the book if you haven't read it, obviously before. Read along and come back at the end of the month for the review.
Yes, yeah. So in the meantime, please follow us on YouTube or Instagram and TikTok, Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening to this amazing podcast. Please follow us. And in the meantime, stay spicy, stay suspicious, and we'll see you next month.